Pregnant woman faints in court. Shocking DNA test reveals hidden truth after 9 long months. The courtroom was packed, murmurs swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust. Sarah, nerves frayed, sat at the plaintiff's table, a bead of sweat trickling down her brow. She couldn't shake the weight of the impending judgment. Today was not just any day. It was the day that would determine the future of her unborn child. She held her breath, the air thick with tension. Around her, the community she had grown up with watched closely, their support mingling with doubt. She glanced down at her swollen belly, a living testament to hope and struggle. Soon, she'd welcome another child into a world uncertain and fraught. The last 9 months had been a roller coaster of anticipation and fear, especially with Dave's reckless lifestyle looming like a storm cloud. Clutching her mother's hand tightly, she sensed the love radiating from her small family, a beacon of resilience against the chaos swirling inside her. As the judge took his seat and the gavel struck, Sarah's heart raced. The trial began with accusations flying like arrows. Dave's reputation hung in the air, thick with disbelief and judgment. Then came the words that pierced Sarah's heart deeper than she imagined. "Are you sure this child will be better off without a father?" Choking back tears, she fought to keep her composure, knowing her family deserved a protector, not a reckless partygoer. Sarah felt a wave of dizziness crash over her as emotions crashed and clashed. Suddenly, the room tilted, and she pitched forward, the world fading into darkness. When she blinked awake, whispers filled the air, the judge's voice slicing through her fog. "We need clarity. A DNA test will resolve this." The news buzzed like a live wire, hope and dread intertwined as Sarah registered what lay ahead. The weight of the moment clung to her, promising both answers and revelations. What would the test reveal? The prospect of losing her child to Dave haunted her dreams. Would the community rally behind her or turn against her if the results failed her? Days stretched on, each moment a test of her mental strength. Sarah faced sideways glances and judgmental whispers at the diner where she worked. The days hovered in a limbo, filled with anxiety, begging for a sliver of good fortune to break through. Her tight-knit family stood firm, offering quiet comfort while doubt nibbled at her edges. How would the town perceive her struggle, displaced between their expectations and her reality? Weeks later, the results arrived, a letter that felt like a ticking time bomb. Taking a breath, she tore it open, the truth unfolding with each tenuous word. Not only was Dave confirmed as the father, but buried secrets spilled forth, shattering her ideal of a happy family unit. The courtroom erupted, the tension palpable. Sarah and Dave stood apart, barriers built on resentment fracturing as they both recoiled from their shared history. Amid the chaos, a skeleton from Sarah's past stumbled into the light, something she had buried deep, something that could change everything. The murmurs rose and fell, heads turning as the explosive revelation loomed closer. Would Sarah choose vengeance or find a way to navigate the messy terrain of forgiveness? With her community watching, the decision lay heavy. It was time to confront their tangled past and reimagine a skewed future. As they found themselves at a crossroads, Sarah took a deep breath, her heart hammering in rhythm with the weight of the moment. What would she choose? The truth hung in the air, promising either hope or heartbreak. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. All eyes locked on Sarah as she prepared to speak the words that would forever alter the course of her family's future. The silence in the courtroom stretched, becoming a tangible presence, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Sarah felt every eye on her, every heartbeat a reminder of the choices that lay before her. Dave's expression flickered in her peripheral vision, part concern, part arrogance. He wanted to know how she would react to the truth coming to light. Taking a shaky breath, she summoned the courage to meet his gaze. The weight of their shared history loomed large, years filled with laughter, love, and fiery disputes. Standstill memories hit her like a wave, but now, with the truth laid bare, everything felt different. The whispers from the spectators blended into a murmur of uncertainty. She could almost feel the palpable shock echoing among them. The community she had depended on, now divided in their judgments. "Your Honor," Sarah finally managed to say, her voice steady but shaky. Today, I stand here not just for myself but for my child. Whatever mistakes have been made, we can't undo the past, but we can choose how to move forward. Each word hung in the air like a lifeline, tethering her to her purpose. She wanted them to see beyond the drama, the regrets, and the pain. Dave scowled, the bravado slipping as he realized Sarah was not backing down. For the first time, doubt flickered across his face. He had been the party boy, the carefree spirit, and now as the reality set in, perhaps he feared he wasn't worthy of this second chance. Flashes of anger mingled with regret danced through her mind, stirring feelings of betrayal in her heart. But Sarah pressed on. We had a life together. I loved you once. But if I'm going to raise this child, I can't do it haunted by what could have been. Murmurs surged like waves in the crowd. Sarah could sense their fascination shifting from the uncertainty of her words to the story unfolding. It was real, messy, raw. The court reporter was furiously typing, capturing every moment in ink, a moment that would ripple through the town long after today. Would they see her as a martyr or a fool? Then she turned to face the judge, her eyes glistening with determination. I want a chance to be the best mother I can be. A chance for my child, no matter what. Whether that means co-parenting or keeping you at arm's length. She continued, now entirely immersed in the weight of her words, letting conviction guide her heart. As Sarah spoke, the world around her faded, tuning out the doubts and fears. She opened her heart wide enough to feel the space where anger used to reside. Forgiveness is hard, she admitted, but I want to find a way through this. Her voice cracked at the crescendo of her feelings, leaving vulnerability exposed before the court. Dave's face lost its mask of bravado. He looked torn between regret and a flicker of something deeper. Could it be remorse? The air thickened with unspoken possibilities. Would he respond, or would he retreat further into his own darkness? Before Sarah could gather her thoughts, chaos erupted once again as a woman rushed into the courtroom, another secret from her past. All heads turned. Confusion and curiosity etched across the faces of those assembled. As her breath caught in her throat, Sarah felt panic rise. Who was this woman? And what did she want? The court, the judgment, her family's future, it all hung in a precarious balance as she faced the unexpected truth once more. What new revelations awaited Sarah? And would this shocking entrance bring further complications or lead her toward a path of healing? She stood suspended in a moment, her heart racing wildly. What would happen next? The woman who burst through the courtroom door looked frantic, hair wild and eyes wide as she scanned the room. Sarah felt an icy grip clench her stomach. Who was the stranger? She stepped forward instinctively, the urge to confront the unknown crowding her senses. Excuse me, Your Honor, the woman gasped, her breath urgent. I need to speak. The judge, a gray-haired man with an iron gaze, raised an eyebrow but motioned for her to continue. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is crucial, she continued, her eyes darting between Sarah and Dave. I'm here about the baby. Your baby. A ripple of gasps swept through the courtroom, merging confusion and intrigue. Sarah felt her heart pound louder, each thump echoing her unsettled thoughts. What did this woman mean? The air felt thick with tension, and time seemed to hang still as they all awaited the unfolding drama. Your Honor, the woman said, gathering her thoughts. I wasn't sure of my timing, believe me, but you all need to know. I'm the one who had been in contact with Dave. She faltered, tears brimming in her eyes. A heavy silence loomed. Dave recoiled slightly, as if the air had been knocked out of him. Sarah's hands trembled at her sides. Everything she had just said about moving forward, about co-parenting, felt suddenly thrown into chaos. I have a DNA test, the woman said, pulling out an envelope, shaking slightly with anticipation or fear. It's about the paternity of your child. The words hung there like an anvil, waiting for someone to catch it or let it fall. Wait a minute, Sarah blurted, her voice barely above a whisper, as the realization hit her. What do you mean you had been in contact with Dave? Are you saying? Her stomach twisted tighter, a fear rippling through her like a cold wave crashing into the shore. "I need you to let me explain," the woman urged, almost pleadingly. "I didn't know none of this was supposed to happen. But something felt off for a long time. I was with him before everything happened with you, and I just found out I'm pregnant too." The words tumbled from her mouth, each one like a stone dropping into a still pond, creating ripples of shock and confusion. Heads turned sharply back toward Dave. For a moment, none of them spoke. The weight of betrayal and secrecy was palpable in the air, making it difficult to breathe. Sarah felt betrayal twist her insides. Was there any truth left in what Dave had said to her? Had he really changed, or was he still the man who had toyed with their love? "Is this true?" Sarah demanded, her voice rising. "You have to tell me right now." Dave's face shifted from shock to a defensive posture, jaw clenched. "Wait, you can't what?" Sarah interrupted, fury igniting. "You can't keep lying? Or you can't hide from the truth anymore?" The tension in the courtroom was electric, a collective holding of breath as whispers swirled around them. The audience leaned in, eyes glued to the unfolding uncertainty as emotions surged just a breath away from eruption. Outside the world continued, but in here, a tempest brewed, questioning everything Sarah thought was true. In this swirl of lies and connections, one thing became painfully clear. She was now caught in the storm. With her heart and her future at stake, Sarah's world threatened to unravel. She felt a strong urge to reclaim her power amidst the chaos. But how? With new complexities emerging from shadows she thought she had left behind. She realized that she had to find strength she didn't know she had. What would it take for Sarah to untangle the web of lies surrounding her? Could she carve a path that allowed her not just to survive, but to thrive for her child's sake? As she prepared to confront the truth head-on, her heart raced with anticipation of what lay ahead. Would she be able to gather the pieces of her life together, or would the truth shatter everything she held dear? The air was thick with tension, a heaviness that felt almost suffocating. Sarah could barely process the woman's revelation and the audience's reaction. She could see the expressions of shock and disbelief carved on their faces. Her heart raced, pounding hard enough to drown out the faint murmurs surrounding her. Dave, her voice broke, desperation creeping into every syllable. "Did you know about this?" The rawness of her question hung in the air. His eyes darted away, avoiding her gaze. In that moment, her worst fears began to crystallize into a painful reality. I didn't," he stammered, his voice unsteady, struggling against the weight of his own tangled lies. The woman's eyes flickered with a mix of determination and despair. "I promise you I didn't want any of this to come out this way," she said. "I thought he had moved on. I thought he was happy." "Happy?" Sarah exploded. "You think any of us is happy right now?" She was shouting now, her voice cutting through the whispers. It felt liberating and terrifying to let her fury out. She looked around the courtroom, seeing pity, judgment, and curiosity on the faces of those gathered. The judge shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Ladies, please. This is a courtroom, not a theater. I would appreciate a bit of decorum," he said, though his voice lacked the authority needed to calm the raging storm of emotions. Sarah squared her shoulders, staring Dave down. "You need to tell me the truth. For once. Do you really care about our child?" His momentary silence screamed louder than words could. The truth hung between them, raw and painful. Sarah felt her chest constricting. The dream of a fresh start, a peaceful family life, now lay shattered at her feet like broken glass. "I do care," he finally breathed, his voice cracking. "But I made mistakes. I didn't think she would come here. I thought what?" Sarah shot back, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "That you could just keep your past hidden? Pretend it didn't matter?" The woman stepped closer, desperation coloring her voice. "Listen, I never meant to hurt you. I was trying to figure things out for myself. But I can't ignore the fact that he's also going to be a father to my baby." Her face was etched with fear and regret. "Father?" Sarah echoed, a bitter laugh escaping. "And you think calling him that makes all this right?" The woman's eyes softened. "I get it. You feel betrayed, and you should. But we both deserve to know the truth before we decide what to do next." Just then, a distant sound interrupted the charged atmosphere, a child's laughter, echoing from the hallway, a stark reminder of innocence tangled in adult chaos. Sarah's heart ached at the thought of her child, of bringing them into this whirlwind of uncertainty. With her thoughts racing, she suddenly wondered what strength lay hidden in the shadows. Perhaps she could confront the storm head-on. But how? Enough! The judge finally interjected, his patience worn thin. Before I allow further chaos to ensue in this courtroom, let us get to the bottom of this. Would you present the DNA test results now? All eyes shifted to the woman. She hesitated, the envelope now a lifeline dangling in a churning sea of doubt. Please, Sarah whispered, her heart pounding. Just tell me who my child will call Dad. The woman took a deep breath, and as she began to pull out the document, Sarah felt the anticipation pivot into dread. The answer to her question sat just a heartbeat away. Would it offer clarity or send her spiraling into darkness? In that moment, the air crackled with unspoken possibilities, an unsettling edge on the horizon of their tangled destinies. What would it reveal, and could it bind their lives together or tear them further apart? The answer loomed, weighting just as heavily as the hearts involved as the woman unfolded the paper. All Sarah could think was that the truth might just redefine everything she held dear. Would she be ready for what came next? The room stood still, the air thick with anticipation. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she watched the woman's hands tremble slightly while handling the envelope, her fingers shaking with the weight of impending revelations. Outside, the child's laughter faded, swallowed by the gravity of what was about to unfold. Just read it, Sarah urged, her voice a whisper now, as if speaking louder would conjure a cruel twist of fate. The judge's brow furrowed, keenly aware that the emotional stakes were rising as sharply as the tension within the courtroom. The woman glanced between Sarah and the judge, her eyes flickering like candle flames, unsteady yet fiery with intention. I didn't want any of this to happen, she murmured, almost to herself. It's too late for regrets, Sarah shot back, her heart racing. She clenched her fists under the table, fighting the urge to lash out further. The minutes that ticked by felt like hours, each one punctuated by Sarah's growing anxiety. With a shaky exhale, the woman finally opened the envelope, pulling out the paper. The silence in the room deepened, drawing every eye, every breath, toward that single sheet, poised to unravel lives. I can't believe this is happening, the woman began, her words thick with emotions, stopping to compose herself. The results, they explain everything. As she steadied her voice, Sarah felt her heart hammering in her chest. Would this answer bring closure or only deepen the wounds? I hope you're prepared, the woman said, glancing sideways at Dave, whose face was pale, mirroring the dread that settled in Sarah's stomach. He glanced briefly at Sarah, his eyes filled with a cocktail of fear and guilt. Just tell me already, Sarah burst out. Her desperation hung heavy in the room, drawing pity from the observers. But she didn't care. She needed the truth. It says here, the woman's voice wavered as she read, her brow furrowing. Paternity confirmed, she gulped, and the room seemed to collectively inhale. Confirmed? Sarah's voice was a breathless whisper. Dave is the father. The woman's words echoed like thunderclaps in the stillness. Sarah's heart plummeted into a pit of disbelief. She felt sick, the room spinning around her as if the walls themselves were closing in. The truth she had feared most lay bare before her. Her whole life and her childish identity were intertwined with Dave's past in ways she had never thought possible. The judge banged his gavel, but the sound barely registered as Sarah met Dave's gaze. He looked stricken, torn between relief that the truth was now known and the immense weight of his choices. Sarah, he began, but she couldn't hear him over the roar in her ears. Stop, she whispered, her voice breaking. Just stop. The woman stood frozen, unsure how to navigate the aftermath. Sarah, I didn't expect this either. I thought don't. Sarah interrupted, her voice firm despite the tears threatening to spill over. You don't get to speak for me. A moment of silence hung over the courtroom before the whispers started again. weaving through the crowd like threads of gossip igniting a wildfire. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sarah shot at Dave, her voice trembling with hurt and disbelief. "How could you hide this? You let me build a life with you. A family with lies." "Sarah," he pleaded again, his face paling. "Don't," she warned, taking a step back, as if distance could shield her from the truth he represented. "I can't look at you right now." In that haze of heartbreak, she envisioned her child, innocent and unaware, becoming entangled in this chaos. And then, the woman spoke softly. "I never wanted to disrupt your lives. All I wanted was to accept the reality of my own." "Your reality? What about mine?" Sarah felt her voice rising again. "Ladies, this isn't the place." The judge interjected, his voice shaking with authority. But Sarah remained unfazed, still trying to process the impending changes, the new dynamic that would reshuffle the entirety of her life. And just then, the door creaked open, pulling the room's focus. A child's laughter bubbled in again, a vivid reminder of innocence. A little girl peeked in, her bright eyes searching the crowd. Sarah felt something shift in her heart, as the bittersweet reality of her situation settled in. Would her child know who she was, or would they get lost in this tangled web? Could she shield them from the storms that raged just outside? Sarah. Dave tried to reach out again, but she raised her hand to stop him. "Not yet," she whispered, feeling the weight of the moment crashing down around her. As the threshold of the courtroom opened wider, revealing the unexpected, Sarah realized that the truth wasn't just about DNA. It was deeper, far more complex, a truth that twisted her feelings and fate. What would she choose as the storm surged around her, threatening to take everything she knew? Would she fight to preserve the life she had, or face the turbulence of her new reality? The answer lay just beyond reach, hiding within shadows yet to be uncovered. With her heart racing, she knew the next decision could change everything again. The laughter cut through the thick tension like a knife, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah felt her heart swell with warmth. But it was short-lived. The little girl, with her bright curls and innocent smile, didn't know the dark storm brewing in the courtroom. Her presence felt like a beacon, clueless of the chaos that threatened to disrupt their lives. "Mommy," the girl called, her voice echoing in the silence, bright and full of love. She dashed forward, her small feet pattering against the polished wood floor, only to halt as she noticed the hushed faces around her. "What's wrong?" Sarah knelt down, a sudden wave of warmth flooding over her as she wrapped her arms around the child. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just wait here for a minute," she managed, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mommy, I want to go home," the girl pouted, feeling the shift in the air. "Just a little longer," Sarah whispered, her heart aching. She looked over at Dave, who stood there like a ghost, trapped in his own guilt. His eyes locked onto theirs, filled with regret and emotion. "Your daughter deserves to hear the truth," the woman with the envelope said gently, stepping closer. "You both do." Sarah's heart twisted. "What truth?" she exclaimed, her voice rising again. "The truth that he's been lying to me? That my whole world has been turned upside down?" "Alexia," Dave began, stepping into the fray again, desperation coating his voice. "I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you." Sarah straightened, her eyes blazing. "Protecting me? By letting me live a lie? By keeping our daughter in the dark?" The courtroom felt like a cage, every face watching this intimate unraveling. Her emotions surged: confusion, anger, protectiveness for her child. Is it fair to call this protecting? Dave hung his head, unable to meet her gaze. "I was afraid of losing everything." Something within her broke. The little girl, innocent and eyes full of joy, didn't understand. Sarah looked into her daughter's wide blue eyes, filled with trust and love, and felt her heart squeeze painfully. "I won't let you drown in this chaos," she whispered to her little girl. "I'll find a way to make this right." "And what about me?" Dave's voice cut through, raw and pleading. "In trying to protect all of us, I only hurt you more. Please, give me a chance to explain." A deep sigh escaped Sarah, Her perceptions of safety and family were fracturing, toppling like a tower of cards. What's there to explain? She shot back, her voice trembling. You're a stranger to me now. I don't know how to trust you, especially when your past is tied to mine in such a painful way. Everyone in the room grew still, the weight of her words settling like a dense fog. She felt their scrutiny probing deeper, each gaze tightening the knot in her stomach. I just wanted him to be happy, the woman muttered softly, her own eyes brimming. I never meant to disrupt your lives. The judge cleared his throat, attempting to regain order. I suggest we take a brief recess. Emotions are running high, he announced, but it felt futile. Nothing could quell the tide that had surged through the courtroom and into their lives. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. With every word, every truth unleashed, the path ahead muddled even further. She had to make a choice. Would she abandon everything to protect her child, to start anew, or would she risk it all for a chance at understanding, at healing? The echoes of laughter faded as the door closed behind the judge. A silence enveloped them, heavy and tangible, leaving behind questions that loomed larger than ever as she stood there. Sarah locked eyes with Dave once more. There was an urgency in his gaze, a plea for understanding and connection that sent a ripple of uncertainty through her. What choice would she make when it came down to love versus trust? And as she felt the weight of her child in her arms, the room still charged with unspoken words, she couldn't help but wonder. Was this the end of her family, or the beginning of something new? The recess was supposed to be a brief pause, a moment to breathe. But in that silence, time stretched, each second feeling like an eternity. Sarah held her daughter tightly, feeling the warmth radiate against her, as if their embrace could shield them both from everything unraveling around them. She released a shaky breath, scanning the room, taking in the faces twisted in concern, curiosity, and some hidden glee. The tension in the air was palpable, an electric charge that made her heart race and her palms sweat. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were all watching a disaster unfold, like spectators at a car wreck, unable to look away. Mommy? Alexia's small voice pulled her from her thoughts. Can I go play? Sarah's heart broke a little more. All her daughter wanted was to be normal. Not right now, sweetheart, she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. Why not? The little girl frowned, her innocence a stark contrast to the heaviness pressing down on Sarah. Just stay close, okay? Sarah forced another smile, though inside, she felt like she was tearing apart. The love in Alexia's eyes felt like a fragile glass ornament, beautiful, but ready to shatter if she didn't handle it carefully. Dave stood nearby, shifting his weight awkwardly. For the first time, she noticed how vulnerable he looked. There were dark circles under his eyes, his brow furrowed with worry. Yet, she couldn't shake the betrayal that coursed in her veins. Sarah, Dave began, his voice hesitant. She didn't respond, focusing instead on her daughter. He pressed on, I just need to understand the context. The context? She snapped, the heat of anger flaring again. What context could possibly justify lying to me? To us? The door swung open, and the judge re-entered, calling everyone to attention. The momentary distraction pulled Sarah from her roiling thoughts. Let us proceed, the judge said, looking weary. I trust that the parties have taken this time to reflect on the discussions. Attention swept through the crowd as they settled back into their seats. Sarah's stomach flipped as she noticed the woman with the envelope again. Would there be more revelations? Would they unearth truths she wasn't ready to face? Let us begin, the judge said, directing his gaze toward the envelope. Will the representative please come forward? As the woman approached, Sarah's heart raced. The air felt thick, and she struggled to breathe normally. The woman opened the envelope and, as she began to speak, Sarah's world narrowed to a pinhole. Today's test results. The woman's voice trembled slightly, her hands visibly shaking. They provide answers that can change everything. The DNA results confirm. Sarah's ears buzzed. She felt the room blur, the voices fading into a dull roar as the words hit her. Answers. Change. Everything. The realization sunk into her gut, cold and sharp as ice. She turned, looking at Dave. There was a flicker of fear in his eyes. "Sarah," he whispered, as if sensing her panic. Should she cut him off, her eyes fixed on the woman? If this could shake the foundation of their reality once again, what would it reveal? Was this the truth she had been longing for, or a new layer of deception? The woman paused, scanning their faces. The results confirmed that Alexia is the biological daughter of Dave. Gasps erupted around them, puncturing the silence like gunfire. Sarah froze, her heart hammering. The flood of emotions surged. Anger, betrayal, confusion, and underneath it all a strange sense of relief mingled with despair. "Wait," she gasped, looking between them. You're telling me?" "Yes," the woman continued, her voice steadying. "But there's more to the story. Something that would leave you both breathless." And there it was, the truth hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Sarah's heart raced, nausea swirling in her stomach. Secrets shrouded in pain, love entwined in betrayal. What could possibly come next? As hope and fear entwined in equal measure, she realized that this revelation would force her to confront not only her marriage but her entire understanding of family. What else was left unresolved? What other truths might come crashing down upon them? With the courtroom holding its breath, she could only wonder what their lives would look like when the dust finally settled. The woman's voice hung in the air, thick with tension. Sarah's heart raced. What more could possibly be left to say? She mumbled, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes in the room digging into her. "Please," the woman pleaded, her gaze shifting between Sarah and Dave. "You need to understand the full context of these results. There are implications that extend beyond what you realize." Sarah clenched her fists, a swirling mix of fear and anger pooling in her chest. The room seemed to shrink around her, the walls pressing inward, suffocating her. "Just tell me the truth," she demanded, her voice trembling. The woman took a deep breath, steadying herself. "The results can also confirm parentage through other familial connections," she began, her tone cautious. "Alexia's DNA matches not only Dave's but also someone from his past." The words hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. She staggered back slightly, her breath hitching. "What do you mean?" "Someone you may know, someone who's been part of both your lives." The woman paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "Who?" Dave asked, his face pale, eyes darting nervously. "Your sister, Melissa," came the reply. A sharp silence followed. Sarah's mind raced, tangled in flashes of memories, her and Melissa laughing over coffee, planning family dinners, confiding in each other. "No, this can't be true," Sarah whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. "It is," the woman insisted. This revelation could mean that not only is she Alexia's biological aunt but also part of how your marriage has evolved. The room erupted in whispers, gasps echoing against the walls like a chorus of disbelief. Sarah felt lightheaded. How could this be happening? The very fabric of her life felt like it was unraveling right before her eyes. "What is happening?" Alexia's small voice broke through the chaos, pulling Sarah's focus back to her daughter. She was still clutching the edge of the table, her eyes wide and confused, searching for answers only her mother could provide. Sarah knelt down, wrapping her arms around Alexia. "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll figure this out." She didn't know how to shield her daughter from the storm crashing down on them. Dave stepped closer, his expression softened with concern. "Sarah, listen, we can get through this." "Can we?" She shot back, her eyes locked onto his. "How do you expect me to trust you now? All this time you've kept secrets, and it seems like our lives are built on a foundation of lies." The judge cleared his throat, trying to bring order back to the courtroom. "Let us keep this civil," he urged, his voice cutting through the noise. "We need to focus on the implications of these results moving forward." Sarah turned her gaze to the judge. "What implications? What does it even mean for our family?" The woman stepped forward again. "It means you must consider the family dynamics. The love, the truth, everything might shift. But it doesn't have to mean losing each other unless you choose that." A poignant silence prevailed as Sarah absorbed her words. What did that mean? Could her family survive this upheaval? As Dave's eyes met hers, She saw something, a flicker of desperation mingled with hope. But could she trust him again? The courtroom buzzed with whispers, but all Sarah could hear was the pulse of her own heart. Was there any way out of this chaos? Or was it the beginning of the end? With a heavy heart, she realized the answers wouldn't come easily. They would have to face the storm together, or risk losing everything. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: she would not back down without a fight. As the judge called for silence, a new thought surfaced. If family could fracture, could it also mend? With so much at stake, Sarah knew they had to decide: could love truly survive the bombshells falling at their feet? The tension in the courtroom was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Sarah stood frozen, her arms still wrapped around Alexia, who was trying to process the emotional earthquake hitting their family. It was a storm of uncertainty, a maelstrom of feelings swirling in and around them. "Mommy?" Alexia whispered, breaking through the noise. Her small voice trembled, pulling Sarah's focus back to her daughter, whose innocence felt like a fragile glass ornament hanging in the storm. "Shoo, baby," Sarah replied, brushing her fingers through Alexia's hair, the familiar motion almost soothing. "I need you to trust me." But deep down, she felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. How could she lead her daughter through such chaos when she couldn't even find her own footing? She had always thought that family meant safety, but now the very roots of their foundation felt exposed. Dave shifted next to her, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, weighing the room with his guilt. "Sarah, please, let us step outside for a moment. We need to talk." His voice cracked ever so slightly, revealing a hint of the urgency he felt. Sarah shook her head. "Talk? Now? After everything? You want to discuss our futures after this?" The words tumbled out like stones, heavy and unyielding. She fought a wave of panic rising in her chest, threatening to trap her in her own emotions. "Trust me," he pleaded, stepping closer. "There's so much more we need to face together." But Sarah felt a wave of anger wash over her. How could he talk about togetherness when he had been hiding such a monumental truth? She narrowed her eyes at him, the heat of betrayal hitting her hard like a slap. This was not just a secret, she hissed, frustration leaking into her words. "You showed me a version of our life that doesn't even exist. How can I trust you anymore?" The room erupted again as the judge's gavel slammed down. "Order! Order!" His voice reverberated through the chaos, trying to restore some semblance of peace. "Let us just take a break," the judge announced, glancing around the room as family members turned to one another, shock still painted on their faces. "We'll reconvene in 15 minutes. Sarah felt a rush of emotions, fear clawing its way back inside. 15 minutes didn't feel nearly long enough to unpack everything that had just been revealed. She needed time to think, to process. But what could she possibly do in a mere quarter of an hour? As the murmurs grew louder with confusion and disbelief, Sarah led Alexia toward the back of the courtroom. She needed to shield her daughter from this madness, protect her as much as possible. They found a corner where it felt just a little quieter. "Alexia, do you understand what is happening?" Sarah asked softly, kneeling to meet her daughter's gaze. Alexia scrunched her face, her blue eyes wide. "Am I not really just your daughter? Why does Uncle Dave's sister matter?" Those words hit Sarah like a cold wind. She hadn't been ready to articulate the tangled web of relationships that was now emergency room-level complex. "No, sweetie, you are my daughter. Always. Family just can be more complicated than we think sometimes." "And complicated means bad?" Alexia ventured cautiously. "No, not bad. Sometimes complicated just means a lot of things to sort through," she said, biting her lip. "But we will sort through them. Promise." Before Alexia could respond, Sarah caught a glimpse of Dave pacing nervously in the courtroom, guilt etched all over his face. The sight twisted her heart. But could it heal? With the weight of the world on her shoulders, she squeezed Alexia's little hand tighter, steeling herself. They had to figure this out. But as they stood there, lost in their own turmoil, a dark thought crept in: were they destined to become more fractured? As they waited for the session to resume, Sarah felt like they were at a precipice. Would they rise from the ashes of this revelation? Or would it all come crashing down? The judge's gavel echoed again as they reconvened. The atmosphere still felt charged, hearts heavy with the secrets and emotions that had been laid bare. Sarah tightened her grip on Alexia's hand, the little girl looking up at her with trust shining in her innocent eyes, but longing and confusion clouded her features. As they settled into their seats, a sense of tension enveloped them, almost suffocating in its intensity. Sarah's gaze darted between Dave and the woman. Would there be more truths? And what did it even mean for her children? The judge cleared his throat, looking weary but determined. "Let us get to the heart of the matter," he began, addressing the courtroom. "We need to navigate the implications of these results and determine the way forward." His voice was steady, anchoring them in a storm of uncertainty. Sarah felt the weight of his words sink in. What did the way forward look like? Could they rebuild? "Sarah." Dave finally broke the silence, his voice heavy with emotion. "I know I've hurt you. I messed up, but I want to make this right. Please, give me a chance to explain everything." "Really?" she replied, her tone sharp and laced with skepticism. "You expect me to believe you now when everything you've built with me was a lie? How do we even start to fix this?" "I can help with Alexia," he urged, vulnerability spilling into his voice. "I love her, I love you both. We can work as a team to navigate this mess. But how do I trust you?" Sarah shot back, feeling the anger boiling within her. "You made this mess. We deserve honesty." The woman stepped forward suddenly, sensing the need to mediate. "I didn't come here wanting to create chaos," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "I understand how this looks, but there's more than just lies at play. If we face this directly, maybe, just maybe, we can find a new foundation." Tears threatened to spill from Sarah's eyes. Her heart ached. Alexia was still watching, eyes wide and frightened. "Sweetheart," she said softly, kneeling again to look into her daughter's face. "All that matters is your safety and happiness. And that's what I'll fight for. Can you fight for me to have a dad?" Alexia asked, her voice small but filled with sincerity. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. "I want you to be safe. I want us to be a family. But families don't thrive on confusion and hidden truths." The room tightened in silence. Sarah could feel every gaze on her, the weight of expectations heavy. Dave swallowed hard, his voice strained. "I've made mistakes, that's no secret. But being a father is something I want to step up to. I can't change the past, but I can commit to doing better." For a moment, the walls of the courtroom felt less like a barrier and more like a stage for transformation. Perhaps the truth wasn't just about DNA, it was about choices, honesty, and the hard work of rebuilding trust. "Sarah," Dave continued, stepping closer, "I know I can never truly understand your pain, but I deeply regret my decisions. I want to be there for you both, in whatever way you'll allow." The warmth of Alexia's little hand gave Sarah strength. She recalled their journey, all the sleepless nights dreaming of a cohesive family, the laughter, the unconditional love. Late last night, she decided that she wouldn't let fear dictate her next steps. Maybe facing the storm was the only way to solidify a foundation of trust. "Okay," Sarah finally said, making a choice. "We can try, but it has to be real. Honesty, commitment, all of it." She took a deep breath. "Can we agree to be open with one another? No more hiding?" Dave nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude and relief. "Yes, I promise, no more secrets." The woman smiled faintly, a shared understanding sparkling in her eyes. "Together you can face anything. The truth has been ugly, but perhaps it can lead to healing if you let it." A murmur of agreement spread through the gallery. Sarah looked at Alexia, and despite everything swirling, she felt a flicker of hope. "Mommy?" Alexia asked again, bringing her back once more. "Will we all be okay?" Sarah knelt down, brushing her fingers on her daughter's cheek, feeling her heart crack and mend at once. "We will be okay. Promise." And in that moment, amidst the storm of confusion and newfound truths, she believed it. The journey ahead would be hard. It would take work. But at least they had a starting point, the glimmer of hope shining bright against the darkness. United in their shared commitment, they could begin to heal. Pain still lingered, but so did love. They would forge a new narrative, one built on authenticity and surrounds of unwavering support. The courtroom began to fade, the onlookers witnessing a transformation as they embraced the power of choices and their futures. Now was the time to move forward, and with it, the knowledge that the true strength of family lies not just in blood, but in the bonds they choose to nurture. This is the moment that matters. You need to subscribe now to catch every twist and turn in Sarah's journey. Leave a like now, and feed the algorithm to inspire others. Comment your reactions and feelings about this transformational ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need this dose of hope and change. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know the importance of supporting the channel. You are the heart of our community.